And the
podcast
begins with a song of rebellion.
How can this
podcast.
be my life?
CD burners.
Hey, check a little bit more. Check. Okay, perfect.
This is why I like just starting.
Yeah.
Me too.
It throws,
I like a soft start.
throws my entire fucking vibe off. I like looked up that guy, Matt
Mahaffey.
yeah, and he looked like his profile picture is just like him with a bunch of synths.
Yeah.
Seems like a real.
He's a head, dude. He's a real head.
Yeah, which is awesome. I'm like,
But I feel like you're a big head too, right?
I'm a head. I'm not as talented as he is, dude. He's like a musical fucking guru. And he's a little bit more of a gearhead than I am. I'm like not a gearhead. Like I'm a,
really?
back to basics, like, song around the campfire. Like if it's not good, it's not good kind of.
were you ever like, was there a time where you were like, I'd
fluctuate.
Sound? Yeah.
And it'd be like, I'm like getting all the toys and like our live setup would be so elaborate and I'd have like every little button and thing and it'd just get so crazy and you're like building Rome and then tearing it back down. And then I'd be like, fuck it. We're having one amp and we're just plugging straight in back to basics. And then I'd go back and forth and I've settled on a little less than more.
Like a bunch of studios.
What's that?
Like you've built a bunch of studios.
I built two. At both the homes that I've had, I built a studio as you got to do. I could never imagine like living without a space like that.
I mean,
Did you
build them? Or
both
did you
cases, I took garages, stripped them down to the studs, and then built a room within a room and just did the whole thing from scratch other than the structure that it was in.
Okay. I mean, like I know you're like, I fluctuate with like the gear stuff. And when you were playing these back then, we'll get into all this shit. I just like, I want to know because I don't want to forget. At the time, were you like, fuck, how am I going to do this live?
Yeah.
Like,
I didn't ask that question. It would be like, oh, fuck, I got to do this live. And I'd realize it later.
Yeah. I mean, was there like, cause I listening back back when the album came out, I was like, I was so unfamiliar with electronic music, any sort of electronic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What was amazing to me was the Get Up Kids had to put a synth in there.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that is electronic music, right? Yeah. And so, when I heard Hellogoodbye, I was like, I don't know what this is.
Literally, what is this? Yeah.
And how the fuck could they do this live in the time that that was at?
I mean, this was kind of before tracks were even
100%.
possible. And this was even a couple years before bands started getting an iPod and doing like a left was a click and a right was a mono everything. But that was like 3 or 4 years after, or I don't know, just after this record actually came out. People started doing that.
Yeah, you were on the forefront of it. You pretty much invented it.
Yeah, but we weren't doing the tracks that way. We the first tour that we did where I saw that was Panic at the Disco had the iPod, and it was like that. And I was like, wow, okay, like maybe we could do that. Yeah. But again, then this is like when I was using a PC computer live, and he was using Fruity Loops. The whole record was made in Fruity Loops.
Oh my god,
dude!
Honestly, what a great program.
Yeah,
it's a good one.
Are you still using it?
No, I should come back around to it. I mean, I've come to Ableton,
dude. I'm watching, so many tutorials. Like I'm still like as annoying into it as when we were talking about it. And all the dubstep kids, I think Porter Robinson uses Fruity Loops.
Yeah,
like I think
probably. It's so funny how it's come back around in a way.
I remember it being like, oh, this is just like a silly thing for kids. And now it's like really people are like, you can't get that sound with XYZ.
You kind of can't get that sound. I remember the engineer, Jeff Turzo, this guy from this metal band called God Lives Underwater. He heard the demos and he was like comparing it to, then we'd like put it into Pro Tools. And he's just like, man, just like, it just sounds different. And I was like, it sounds the same to me, man, but like, cool, you know better. But like, truly, it does sound different. For me, I love Fruity Loops because it was so visual, and it taught me music. Like, it's how I learned. Like, when you see it, and I'm a visual person, I guess. Like, so I'd see like a third, and it's like 3 away, and I'm like, a third, man, I could get it. Or like with rhythm, it's like triplets. I was like, oh my god, it all makes sense when you see it and you draw it. And so like, most of this record that we're talking about wasn't played. A lot of it wasn't played. A lot of it was
like
programmed, was drawn. And not the way I like to do things now, but it did like teach me a lot about like understanding what was actually going on. Because you could like play something and be like, I don't know what I did, but like there it was. With Fruity Loops, I was like, I know exactly what I did. I built it from scratch,
It's right where I'm at.
Yeah.
It's like it's
cool.
exciting. It's really
Very
really awesome, and to know that you did that back then, and that's how you've been doing it for this long. And you know, I think you said you go through your phases, and I mean, you can really tell with a lot of the albums. You're like, this is where I'm at. X, Y, and it,
Yeah.
even with this album, right? It's like a lot of the songs are.
It's all over the place.
It's impressive how not consistent it is. Like
Totally.
it is really impressive how not consistent it is.
Do you think that came out of you just being like, okay, I don't want to make the same song over and over again, or like?
I mean,
just
I've always felt
Okay.
that way. Like I've never wanted to do the same thing twice, for sure. I also remember thinking back at the time, I was like, dude, I don't even understand albums or care about albums. I love songs. And every song should stand completely alone and just be a good song for that song's sake. And I don't care what context it fits in. This isn't a concept record or whatever. So I remember having that attitude where like, I don't know, like what the last song was, that's like totally, I'm done with that. I'm doing this song now. And
Yeah.
so then I listened to the record, I'm like, yeah, those are songs.
It's so strange because like, you know, this album came out at a time when people were like albums.
Yeah.
Like you were just again ahead of it. Now it's just singles. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's very few and far between where people are like, I love this whole album, and I listen to the thing from front to back. It's just a fucking song.
Yeah.
And I think you just put out an album of songs.
Of songs, yeah.
Which
and
is-
the iconoclast that I am, now I like albums.
Yeah.
Now I get it.
Was it a little bit difficult for people to place you in on a tour's
Yeah.
label, like everything,
It
because you're
still
like,
is, dude. Like I feel like I don't make sense anywhere. I feel like I've almost never made sense anywhere I've ever been, to be honest. And it's not the worst. I guess it suits my personality. I kind of always feel like a bit of an outsider, you know? But yeah, every bill that we've ever been on, I'm like, I don't know why we're here, but they asked us, so cool.
I mean, was it like, because, you know, we have this fucking label and all this shit, and we're kind of running into this thing where it's like we submit these songs, and Spotify needs to know like,
Mhm.
what is this thing?
Mhm.
And when we get a song from this label, what is it going to sound like, and
Mhm.
where are we going to place this?
And this sounded nothing like Drive Thru had ever put out before, right?
Yeah.
So I read something that was like you were an intern at Drive Thru. You were a web
Then an employee.
web
first an intern.
designer. Okay.
Yeah.
What was that transition like when you handed them your demo tape?
So I didn't.
Okay.
Because I didn't think they'd like it, because I didn't think it made any sense.
Right.
So, I mean, this is coming up here was triggering for me too, because this
Yeah.
was the commute I used to make to go to Drive Thru.
Can we reverse it?
And
Can we go back
rewind
a little bit? Yeah, just a little bit, because I want to stay with that question. But
Yeah.
there's not a ton of interviews with you online.
No, this is like the third podcast I've done ever.
Thank
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank
Yeah,
you for
thanks for
doing
being
it,
here.
because it makes it cooler and a little bit harder sometimes, but also easier, because then I can be like, I need to know this because I can't find it.
Yeah.
I did see an interview where it sounded like you were kind of salty at Drive Thru.
Oh,
You
yeah.
didn't say it, and then couldn't read it anywhere, but you're like,
Well, tough one. But I didn't know how to address that in this, because I think the only thing I can really say about Drive Thru is that I have a non-disparagement clause.
Mm.
well, I
Okay.
don't, and I can say whatever the fuck I want.
So speculate away.
I've told this story on here before, but I was in a band when I was like 15, and we drove from Tucson to here to
Sick.
Drive Thru.
We would do the opposite. We would drive to Phoenix and Tucson for our first couple shows.
It's a good drive.
Oh, it's that dude. It's still like romantic in my heart.
It really is. And so we were like, Drive Thru somehow got our
Okay.
album.
Yeah,
And so it was like,
you've got dealings.
I don't know how it happened. I really just don't. I was fucking 15. And I remember
That's the way they like them. Oh God, I've said too
That's-
much already.
that's- and so look, I didn't know that. Like I
Yeah,
had
the
no
rumors.
idea. And even at the time, I didn't think it was that. I didn't think it was weird. But like the band left, and Richard was like, "Stay here," and like,
Yeah, okay.
really.
It all checks out. Yeah.
And I was like, dude, maybe in my head, maybe I'm gaslighting. Maybe like I'm gaslighting myself, and it wasn't that, or whatever the
Mhm.
term is, or lying, or exaggerating this in my head.
Yeah.
And then the more that I hear about it, I was like, maybe I was right.
Yeah. I mean, none of it seemed weird at the time for me too. All that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. I was like, yeah, sure. Like I'll put on the guest socks and crash here and
Dude, isn't that
whatever.
like exactly the fucking?
It's the whole thing.
And
yeah.
I've never heard you. You know, I've never heard you say that. It's like
yeah,
very
all,
interesting.
Yeah, walk on your back, sure.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Oh, it's all yeah.
Is that like is that common knowledge?
That's common knowledge.
Okay,
the
all
walking
right.
on the
There's
back.
like 1,000 stories like that.
Okay, all right. I was like, fuck, dude.
Mhm.
I damn. I was
Yeah.
like, cool.
But
I
so
feel
when you were
validated.
working there, were you like I don't know, how did that transition happen? Like
I can let me go all the way back. So in high school, I was loved doing graphic design, web design.
Mhm.
I had the band a little bit. We were just making music. I saw Drive-Thru's website and I was like, this thing sucks. So I emailed them. I was like, I could build you a better website. And they were like, okay, come on in. And I built them one. And that's when I was just an intern. I just got like some free merch and stuff for building them a website. And then they hired me to be like a full-time like web designer, graphic designer. So I worked there for a couple years.
so you were making websites for like the bands that you liked and stuff?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Laying out adverts and stuff.
How'd you start with that shit? How
With
like
graphic design and
I
web
mean, 'cause
design?
back that like, dude. I mean, we're way back. This is like back when
Yeah, you
computers-
couldn't really
This
YouTube
was-
tutorial.
Oh, no. Yeah. I mean, I got started with Angel Fire and GeoCities where you could
Mhm.
kind of start to like code, but it was like holding your hand, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, how did you learn? How did like back then? How did you learn? Was it like strictly through reading books?
No, it was strictly by looking at code, copying it, and being like, oh, that part did that. And literally just, that was it. It was just like taking snippets of the code and then piecing it together and then starting to kind of get it. And it was all from honestly, it was all because of making band websites. Like first band I made, I was like, got to make a website. So they're programming like, you know, the hex background colors and whatever and getting better and better at it. And then I made like a photo journal in high school where I took like a series of photos, you know, like a roll of every day and would post them. There's like a comment section. So I scripted all that myself. And then started doing it for labels and stuff. Worked at Fearless as well doing it. But just, I mean, by looking at it.
That's awesome. I mean, I just remember like my dad had all these books on like DOS,
Yeah.
and I was like, is this how people learn computers?
That would be probably one way.
Yeah,
I remember those how to CSS for dummies books.
For dummies, always,
Those
yes.
were in
Yeah.
everybody's office.
Yeah.
Like everybody had that growing
Yeah.
up.
I think I'm just impressed with like the attention span and like the you know, I'm always really impressed when it wasn't just like a YouTube tutorial and people kind of taught themselves how to do this. We had a business partner, Jacob Cooper, who was in a band called Bark Bark Bark, and his like trajectory and age and how he learned how to do stuff is like pretty similar. I've always been really impressed with that type of shit. He's a ding dong, but I mean, yeah, he's fucking like
Obviously not.
it was like I wouldn't say anything on this phone. I'll do whatever I want.
All right.
It's been really helpful.
Jumping back to it.
Yeah. So
The
wait,
transition from full-time drive-through employee to now you're an artist on drive-through records.
yeah, there's a gap there. I'll fill in.
Okay.
So then I stopped working for Drive-Thru, quit and went home. I'm tired of that 3-hour commute, man.
Yeah, that's
It's
brutal.
bad. It was all the way up to like, I don't even know what you call that. It's like I forget it. It's like way past the valley where they were at the beginning. Anyways, then I started Hellogoodbye, and it was like a recording project. Had Fruity Loops and just started like programming beats and stuff. And did not think to show Drive-Thru because when I worked at Drive-Thru, I would listen to like The Anniversary and Reggie and the Full Effect and sometimes the Venga Boys, and they were just like, they would roast me constantly. Like, what is all this meow meow meow? Like,
Yeah.
fuck, like, what are you doing, guy? Like,
Yeah,
and I was like,
synth
this is what I
guy.
like. Quit making fun of me. So then when I started doing neo music, I was like, they're not gonna like it. So I didn't show them. And I listened to the Starting Line episode. So there's a crossover here. I don't know if you knew this, but We the People Records, who first signed Starting Line, right, and then passed them up to
Yeah.
Drive-Thru. He didn't sign Hellogoodbye, but he heard us and was like, he passed our name along to Richard and Stephanie, and we're like, I think you'd like this band. And so then they called and was like, oh, you do like it. How interesting. Okay. Never would have guessed.
I mean, they called you. They know it was you.
Yeah. They were like, hey, Forrest, yeah, we like your music.
That's fun. So had you had already had like music online at that point?
Yeah, mp3.com. I think it was before Pure Volume.
MySpace.
Yeah, MySpace, yep. Actually, I think it was before MySpace, to be honest.
Wow. So you had like a track or two up there. Do you remember which ones?
Yeah, Shimmy Shimmy Quarter Turn was up there for sure. I don't know what else. Probably Touchdown Turnaround, Bonnie Taylor Shakedown, some of that stuff.
I do. There was a good interview with you in Nylon. Nylon, that was a good. That was a good interview. That was like a well written, and it was like more shit than I found from the old interviews of you, where you're
I
like,
forget what I said in there, but right on.
it was good. No, it was a good. It was good, and it was like it felt really honest. And you're like, you know, fucking look back at those kind of. It's like kind of I feel kind of cringe sometimes, and just by knowing your lexicon of or discography of like your music and how it's gone up and down, I was like, yeah, I understand that. Like I understand looking back and being like this, but then coming to a place and being like, I like that again, and then going back and being like, fuck, and then coming back and liking that again.
Yeah.
Where are you at right now with those?
Yeah, I listened to the record on the way to drive up here, as I thought I should, and I didn't cringe as much as I might have. I mean, I always really it's precocious, you know, and there's that saying where like you have like the first, 20 years of your life to write your first record. And there's some of that to it where it's a lot of those songs, like Touch and Turn is the first song that I ever wrote for the band, for the project. And I was probably 17 years old. It was probably 1998 or 99, and it didn't come out until 2006. So it was quite an old song already. So there was this whole, like, even at the time, I was like, these are old. It's time to get these out and move on, you know?
Yeah.
You're like already tired of it.
Already tired of it a little bit. I still kind of cringe at the chaoticness of it. It's all over the place in a way that doesn't, I think, make for an enjoyable listen front to back, maybe. But I really love the heart, and it's just cute and sweet. I don't know. There's nothing to be mad about.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I was a sweet little kid.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is like, you know, like there is that charm about listening. I might not be, you know, like a perfect song in like the grand scheme of like what a song is in a textbook, but looking back, it's like kind of is a perfect song for like that time and place and like where you were at. And so I was wondering if you're like able to look at it with those eyes. At you know, now, like at this point, you're like, you know, fucking for the time, yeah, perfect.
Well, for sure. I mean, there's no way I was going to do anything other than that. Like, that's what I was going to do, and I had no choice in the matter almost. Always kind of been that way.
You had these couple songs on mp3.com, on MySpace. I read, I think it was just on Wikipedia. They were like they were reaching the end of their MCA deal with Drive-Thru, and they wanted to kind of like keep their new signing, Hellogoodbye, under wraps. So the strategy was, okay, let's put out this EP. And were you at all involved in that strategy? Did you realize how impactful that strategy would be?
Which part of the strategy? Like
of
free
like
download?
Of like being like, I'm just going to put out this EP for now. Like they were like, oh, we'll just, you know, keep it on the back burner, wait for this deal to play out. He can put out his little EP online, and you know, then
I wasn't aware of that side of it.
Okay.
Like the politics of the contracts and the deal with MCA. That wasn't where my head was at all. I don't think they were upfront about that necessarily. They were always just like, our deal sucks so bad. This next deal is going to be so good. And then they'd get that. I digress.
Okay.
I just thought it was cool. Like, yeah, of course we'll put it up for free. Already everything I've ever done, I've put out for free.
Right.
It's like not weird.
No, there was like no loss. Like,
no loss. Yeah, that's kind of what I was planning on doing anyways. And it sounded like a rad idea. Like, oh, you have the whole EP and just put it out for free, and you guys are down to do that? Like, I thought you guys like were a label and you sold things for a living.
Yeah, don't you sell records?
Don't you sell records? You want to do it for free? Great,
Sure,
works for me.
Yeah,
but I didn't realize they were like delaying contractually some shit.
Well, dude, it's a dream because Drive-Thru is, you know, some of my favorite artists of all time, and so like at the time you're like, that's fucking odd, and especially being so young. Being like, what a dream come true.
Yeah, we were there at a very special time.
Yeah.
I think they were like just fucking batting 1,000.
Literally everything. Like some of those Drive-Thru compilations, like what an amazing, like some of those songs, like in general and in a row, like the sequencing of them, and it might just be a time and place situation for me, but I was like, fuck, dude. Literally, like what you said, batting 1,000.
They were. There was a lot of quality.
Yeah, those in the Vagrant like compilations, like that's like my
That was a golden era of compilations.
It really was. It's a bummer that it's like, I don't know if
It's all about playlists now.
I know, but it's not the same, man.
No. You go to the show and you get the random compilation or whatever. You
Yeah,
pop it in and you find
exactly.
3 bands. Like
The
it was
band in the
best.
parking lot with the headphones. Hey, listen to our song.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I don't know. The closest thing, I don't know. Who knows? I might get roasted for it, but like SoundCloud has done a really good
Yeah.
job
Yeah.
of like music discovery.
Yeah.
As far as like the rest of the platforms, they all sound better than fucking SoundCloud. I saw a thing like actually yesterday. There's a bunch of artists that are being like, dude, it fucks your transients up. Like they're like for a music platform that is so invested in actual music, they like it kind of like fucks your like sound up, which I don't give a fuck about because it like suggests. But
Yeah.
like that's the closest, I guess, feeling that I've come since those came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to be having this discussion about, physical compilations versus the internet, because the internet played such a huge part in Hello Goodbye. What do you think is like the most unexpected way that like the internet really took Hello Goodbye to that next level?
Interesting. I guess like becoming like a MySpace band, and then like MySpace did a tour.
Mm-hmm.
That was like when MySpace came around. I mean, it wasn't the first social media for me, so I was like, all right, another one. And then when it became such a big thing, I was like, oh, this is important.
Right. So you're seeing all this success from this EP that you just put up for free on MySpace, and then you go into the studio with Matt.
Yeah.
And this was technically the first time that you had really recorded with anybody outside of your bedroom, right?
Yeah. The EP was Fruity Loops in my bedroom.
What was the transition like going from just making stuff in your room by yourself to working in a studio with Matt?
I was really happy that it was Matt. And I don't know what I would have done otherwise. I was if
Was that your choice? You were like,
yeah.
I want it, and he
They
was
didn't know who he
down?
was, and I
Okay.
was like, I don't even know what I'm going to do if we can't get him.
Yeah.
And I waited like 3 months where I was emailing every email I could find, and there was no reply.
What was the record that made you want to work with him?
So he had a project called Self.
Right.
You know, do you know it at all?
I do after
Cool.
this.
Yeah. Dig into it more. Some of it is so good. So I love the whole project. There's a record called Breakfast with Girls, which is kind of it's a gorgeous opus, man. Like he really shows his stuff on it. So you might check that out. But I was just obsessed with him, and it was eclectic in the way that I thought Hello Goodbye was, and he was doing like I was like, man, like he's like who I want to be, And when I first met him to record the record, it's like definitely the first time, and maybe like one of the most powerful times I've ever been starstruck. Like I'm, you meet like LL Cool J, and it's like, hey, LL Cool J, cool,
Yeah.
nice to meet you. But when I met Matt Mahaffey, I was like, hi, sir. I don't know. I'm so freaking out. Hands are sweaty and shit, so different. So a huge fan. Again, emailing for months on end with no reply, and again they're like, "Yo, we got to get
And
somebody."
you
to
were
do
doing
this
that. It was like
record."
drive through doing that. Like how much like work?
Everybody's just trying to get hold of him.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing everything I could, and it was actually Christine Ripley at Drive Through who finally got a reply, and it was when I was kind of like, "Well, shit, I guess I got to figure out a backup plan because like that was my only plan." Finally, he replied, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And I was like, "Okay."
Did you ever ask him
Here we
why
go.
the hell he didn't reply for
I
so
think he
long?
was just like, I don't know, just like went to some weird email, and he was like,
Yeah.
I don't know, I didn't make too much of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't have a second choice. At all?
I did not have a second choice. This is when like Drive Through was top of their game. And they're like, you want Trombino? And I'm like, I love Trombino.
Yeah.
But no, like that's not the right fit, man. Like this record's weird and crazy, and it needs to be Mahaffey.
It's crazy you said that because that was like that was probably one of the first times I was starstruck when we like met him at like
I've
Donut.
never met him, so I probably would be a little.
Who,
He's-
Trombino?
Yeah, he's awesome and weird, and
Yeah.
we've done podcasts with him, and he's like,
Oh yeah, listen to our Jimmy Eat World episode with him. It's
Okay.
the worst interview ever.
but he knows it.
I heard
Like,
he's stoic. I heard he's like.
I
Yeah.
asked him to do the interview. He said, "Yeah, I'll do it, but I'm warning you, I'm a terrible interviewer."
Which
And
is-
he was not wrong.
it's so interesting though with him, especially because you're like, what is going on up there?
Yeah.
Because you've made
Lots.
all of these. Like, I mean, that was the first time. His name was actually the first time I ever was like, what is a producer?
Me too, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was not even aware of like the concept of what one did, And then I was like, oh, now producers are on my radar. thanks to Trombino.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm gonna absolutely listen to this self. I have a list of like all the stuff that I have to
Yeah.
go through and listen to.
Yeah.
And if you felt that way about that, I'll also probably feel
It's
that way about
wild
that.
stuff. Yeah, listen to Breakfast with Girls, or I'll send you some stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wait, so you go in, just Fruity Loops in you, and at first, and then how does he approach this? How does he approach like
the start's funny? So I'm like geeked out, starstruck, freaking out, so excited to record this record that most of it's been written for so long. It's all building up. It's all very huge and exciting. Day one, I drive up here across the street, like I said, going to the studio, and he's like, "What's up? All right, we're going to a party." And I was like, "What? No, we're supposed to start like working, right?" And he's like, "Nah, there's like this party down the street." And I was like, "Cool." I was just like so uptight and like, "What? Why?" And thought it was cool. He took us to a party at I forget their names right now, but it's the couple who wrote "Torn" for Natalie Imbruglia. Big producers. And this gorgeous house and this pool party. And I was just there being like, "Why are we here?
When are we going to work?
When are we going to work? What is he doing?" But I think it was almost like by design to like take the pressure off and be like, "Look, we got lots of time, man. Like it'll take as long as it takes, and no worries. And like we'll hang out and we'll have a good time." And it kind of set the tone in a nice way.
And how long did it actually take?
About a month. Yeah, about 4 weeks. Me driving up like 5 days a week, basically.
Was that kind of the first, like, I mean, that party in particular, was that one of the first times, I remember going to some parties in LA, being a fucking kid, from Tucson, and being like, this is what they're talking about. This is like what the thing is.
Yeah, they had the sick house and the pool and the view and the valley. And I was like, this is sick, but also I'm not enjoying it. And I want to go.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. So like when, if he heard the demos, he heard all the stuff that you did. How was he like, all right, we're going to recreate this in a real studio? Like, what was that process like? Was he like, we're going to use real things? We're going to use all this shit. At what point did you come in and be like, starting to really like what, the sounds that, make you you?
Mm-hmm. He's the guy who's good at both. And there's a lot on that record that is the demo. Like, honestly, Here in Your Arms is just about the demo. Like, that song came out, the demo is, all the keys and drums and everything except for the vocal and the guitar. And even the vocal just in the last chorus, when there's like the down chorus before it goes big, that snippet, we were just like, I don't know, it's just like the way that vocal came out, we're just using that. So that was from the demo.
And that's, you did that.
In Fruity Loops and at home,
like at home. It's like really impressive.
Yeah. Thanks.
Forrest that one was the OG.
I know, I really do. I know that, but it's just like, fuck, it's like really impressive.
So that one came out of the box kind of ready to go. A lot of the other songs changed a lot, and Matt could play everything. He's doing crazy keys all over it. And going back and listening to the stems, like there's stuff where I'm like, man, I forgot that's even in there, and it's so gorgeous. And I didn't do that. He did that. He played a lot of the drums on the record, and our drummer at the time, Chris Perfetta, played a lot of the drums as well. And then there's a few songs that, were the programmed beats from the demo. A funny one is Baby It's Fact. It's like really live sounding kind of jazz drums, but that's all fake. I programmed that. And that was like when I realized that I didn't like programming.
Yeah,
because I'm like
no feel.
Because I was just there like nudging and like velocity and just like tweaking out in full tweaker mode. Like no, when like you could just get a good drummer to just like lay it down,
So speaking of personnel on this album, we have to talk about Jack Antonoff.
He's there.
He played mandolin on Bonnie Tyler Shakedown, and he played guitar on Stuck to You. Mm-hmm. How did that happen? And when you were working with Jack, did you see any sort of inkling of what he would become?
Is he a cool guy?
He's a really cool guy. We toured with Steel Train probably more than we toured with. Steel Train is Jack's old band. Mm-hmm. Toured with them more than we probably toured with any other band. I don't know. We did like 6 or 7 or 8 tours with them, and we were really close. He got famous, and he kind of doesn't answer my texts anymore. So maybe I should text him right now. But he's a really great guy. He's really nice. I haven't talked to him in a while.
Call him.
But no, when I saw him, dude, it was another, like Matt Mahaffey, we're like, this guy is on another level musically.
Yeah.
It's just like otherworldly talented, could do everything. He played a bunch on Would It Kill You as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What about it? Where you like, is he just sit down at something and then he might be playing the same thing as somebody else, but there's something a little bit different about
He's got
the way
feel.
it's like it's just that thing.
He's got feel for days.
Yeah.
So everything he plays is like, not only was that like impressive, it like sounded cool, you know, and was rad. And also it's like any instrument. Just like hand him one, he's like, oh yeah, sure. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever seen one of those before?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
you
it's
just did
super
that.
fucking annoying.
Yeah, no, it's super
No,
annoying.
it's like really fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Did you like get to a point where, you know, because you were programming everything in MIDI, like were you getting to a point where you're like just viewing writing music as math, and where it became like unenjoyable and you had to go backwards?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
totally what I'm talking about. Like when I lost my mind on the jazz drums of Baby It's Fact, I was kind of like, never again.
Yeah. You're like, this isn't fun. I'm not
This is
playing
not
anything.
fun. Yeah. And so now I want to play almost everything, even if it's like a drum beat, like a drum machine. Like I want to fucking hit it in, you know? I want to feel it just because it's like music is meant to be fun and be enjoyed. And the reaction to all this with Zombies was the next record, Would It Kill You, when I built the studio at home, was like, I'm like, dude, I'm not programming anything. I'm buying a bunch of microphones. I'm building a studio that can record real audio instead of like, you know, it used to be like you said, the little desk in the bedroom, which is great. You can do a lot with that. And actually, you can do everything with that, but it's not always fun. So I was like, I want to build a space where like, you know, musicians can play music, and I want to make a record where musicians play music.
I mean, how often now, you know, after building like 2 studios and having everything like set up, you ever just go back to your laptop every once in a while and you're just like, fucking fuck around?
Program a little bit?
Yeah.
No, it's not
Yeah,
fun. No,
dude,
it's not a fun thing to do.
I just like, I can't, I mean, I'm probably at like the pink cloud stage of being like, everything is awesome. You know?
Yeah, and programming,
Yeah.
it honestly can be fun. I'm being a little facetious. I do it on airplanes, obviously, when I'm working on stuff. I mean, in the studio, I got a keyboard there, and I'm like, let me just play it in. And if I need to edit, I'll edit. But like, I'd rather do that than start trying to draw it.
And how often do you like stay up to date with the new shit that's like coming out? And do you check up on it like regularly?
Not really.
Yeah.
Anytime I make a record, some of the people that I work with are the heads like that. So they come in and I'm like, Brendan, like, what's new? What are the plugins I got to have? Give me the top 3. Don't waste my time.
I didn't realize how fucking annoying they are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I did not realize how unbelievably annoying that, like, just make it all the same. You have to do different shit for every.
No, just find the 10 you like and just, that's it.
It's kind of been the like consensus of everybody who I'm like, oh, you're good at music. And they're like, these 50 fucking plugins. I use 0. I use 3 of them.
Use 3 of them. Yeah, and exactly. Because that's not the music part.
Yeah. I think that's what everybody like gets. I don't want to talk about this.
Do you wish that? Do you wish that there was
you can
more?
talk about this, baby.
No, I don't. It's annoying. I don't want to be annoying. I have to like kind of.
But do you wish that there was more of like an organic feel to this record, or do you like it how it is?
I mean, almost obviously, yes, I do wish. But also, it's such a product of what it is, and I think that if it were, that wouldn't be right. I think that it belongs the way that it is, you know. That's just true to form, to the way that it was made and the way that it was written and where my head was at then. Again, this all came out of like a lot of songs that I wrote in high school, and I had bands starting in middle school. I had like 3 or 4 bands from then through high school. And then when I started Hellogoodbye, it was when I was like, I don't know about having a band. I think I just want to like make some songs because computers are available now and I can record, and I'm just going to like program some stuff. And that was that whole new exciting world where I was like, you know, I don't need a drummer. I can just make a beat. It is amazing.
Make everything, upload it, and then people like it.
Yeah. And then get my friends together to play a show.
Yeah.
Which was great. What was the question?
Well, I mean, okay. Did you have a hard time? Like, I think you've said it a little bit where you're like, I didn't really feel like I fit in, but you know, you did fall into the drive through and all those bands. Like, did you find it hard to like assimilate with them, or were they like, why are we on this thing with this guy?
I think a lot of people felt that way. The band we totally clicked with was Early November. They were fast friends. I think at least Joe, he got it. I don't even know if I got it, and I wasn't trying to get it. Like what I was doing, I was like, I'm not too self-reflective on it. I'm like, look, I'm just doing it. You guys can either make sense of it or not. I don't really care. For a long time, I didn't really think about how I fit into anything. I mean, even now, I kind of still don't. I feel like most of my life has been like fish out of water moments, like going to places where I don't belong or ostensibly don't belong, and then just being like, yeah, hi, well, nice to meet you.
I love that.
Well, the thing is, we haven't even like really touched on the music, and I think if you were to play this to anybody, they'd be like, "This is fun." Right?
Yeah,
They would be like, "This is a
hopefully,
fun."
at
This
the
is
very
a fun.
least.
Yeah. I
Like-
felt like, I mean, I saw you guys live a million times when I was in high school.
Okay.
And I felt like the shows were always so fun. I always knew it was going to end with like inflatable pool toys and just absolute mayhem. And it was always fun. I felt like you guys were always such a fun band.
Good.
And,
All of us liked to, not take it too seriously and be kind of, like play with the moment a little bit, like take the piss out of it and kind of like shake everyone. Like, look, it's not
Yeah.
that serious.
yeah.
I mean, that's it. I think that's like that's the one thing that I didn't really hear in any of the things that you were talking about. How fun it is, like the music part of it.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of because that's what's like all these artists were getting lumped into like emo and emotional and all that shit. And then you had Hello Goodbye. Like, this is fun music.
Yeah. It wasn't sad, really.
No, did you find it like cathartic to write that style, like in like a more up tempo? Like, are there, I don't know. I feel like when you're 15, 16, 17, it's strange. It's strange to think that you wrote that way back then when, you know, our brains kind of
Yeah.
lead us to go the other way.
Yeah. So the first song that I wrote, like I said, was Touchdown Turnaround. And I was really just an honest fan of the Venga Boys and wanted to be like the Venga Boys and kind of thought like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if like there were music that sounded kind of like that, but, you know, didn't just have lyrics about like partying, even though our lyrics were still silly. And I think like a lot of people roast it for being like cutesy cheesy, whatever. Like I like cutesy cheesy. But like, you know, something that was a little more like niche and heartfelt, like with this, you know, 90s dance track going, like that was kind of what I thought would be really interesting. And so I was just following, you know, my curiosity.
And it's cool because, you know, like that was what attracted me to Saves the Day was I was listening to, you know, somewhat upbeat music with lyrics that didn't match.
Yeah.
And
It was like the opposite.
yeah,
a little
it's
bit, yeah.
really like kind of the polar opposite of like what you were doing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see like how people's brains are fucking flipped around.
Yeah. I remember when I first heard Saves the Day in high school, I was like gouging the eyes out with a spoon. Or, I don't know, man. What's this guy on
Yeah,
about?
and
I was
then-
freaked out.
Dude, and then like the music is like happy. Like it's like there's like happy. It's like what the fuck, dude? That's, you know, that, and I think that's what attracted me to you guys. It was like you had this thing that was fairly the polar opposite of what was happening in a scene that you were a part of.
Mhm.
And I think that is what makes Hello Goodbye like incredibly unique. You also another thing that you kind of pioneered was the imagery, the design of on the album.
Yeah, okay,
Like-
sure. I mean, having come from that world to start, it was a part of it.
We
for me.
then every fucking piece of merch for the next couple years looked just like that.
A little neon core.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And you know, I saw you. By the way, I had really a lot of fun at Subculture. Like I had a.
Well, you were there.
Yeah.
Oh, I wish I saw you.
I just, dude, I'm like, I don't want to. Everybody's doing stuff. I was just there for your. I was like, came for your.
Cool. Was it all right? I still haven't heard from them since it happened, so I hope they thought it was cool. And I was super nervous, to be honest. Like
Meredith was like, they're advancing the show via Instagram.
oh my god,
DM.
dude!
I was
Yes,
like,
I
oh,
know.
Yeah,
my wife Chelsea was like, "Is this how they communicate with you?" And I was like, "Yeah,
I-
that's fine. It's cute, but
It's so funny. I love. We
love those
We
guys.
really do love those
awesome,
guys.
dude.
Um,
it was such a cool thing, but
yeah.
there's another moment where I was like, I don't know if I belong here either.
Yeah.
I was really like that.
Where do I belong?
When you've been saying that, like I, you know, like I really understood. But then you got what was really interesting to me was and I don't know what you can see from stage, but you've got like a fucking the circumference of the border of the room where everybody is fucking singing every word that you're saying.
Okay, cool. I can see that.
Yeah, I didn't think that you could, because it was like, and I was walking by everybody and being like, dude, this is fucking really, really sick.
That's really rad.
It's really, really cool. It was maybe that might not be something that you can see because you are where you are and I am where I am.
Yeah.
And so the perspective of like, you know, how you view yourself and how somebody watching you views yourself is really different. And I just thought that was really a cool and interesting thing. Just a way that you're like, I've never fit in. And then you've got all these people that are like doing this and they do think it's like, you're for them.
That makes me feel really good. Where my head was at was I dropped the mic. Did you see that?
Yes.
And then the sound guy yelled at me like a lot.
No, dude. Yes.
And then I was like, oh, like, okay, he hates me and this is like a little bit of a bad vibe. But then I couldn't hear my vocal at all. So I went over and I was like, hey, can I? Oh, he just left. He's gone. Okay.
It's so fucking, dude.
I am persona non grata. My bad.
No. We always try to be like so fucking nice to sound guys, but I mean, they're perpetually grumpy.
Yeah.
They're just like,
He was nice at the end. I went over and apologized again, you know, because I totally do get it. But he was really nice.
Dude, I remember being in high school and like I at a show that I played with my band and I did the same thing. I dropped the mic like once or twice. And like, I remember the sound guy literally like pushed me against the wall after the show and was like, you better fucking not.
Oh, you
do
got
that.
like,
I told you
not
not
bully
to do that.
moved?
Yeah. I was like fucking 14. Like, bro.
You have
never again, huh?
What, like,
not doing that ever again.
What's the fucking deal? It's like they've never realized that like people make.
I mean, sure, yeah, and also like if it broke, then I'm good for it. I will replace it, no worries. But
but that's just the fucking life. That's what you. But
I should have brought my own, to be honest. But I was traveling all weekend.
You had a busy weekend.
A busy weekend, yeah. It was with you guys.
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah. Well, and then you're doing the podcast with us. You're all over the place.
Yeah.
It is awesome. Like, it's a really cool thing to like, we get to be, you know, looking back at all this stuff. And we started this podcast as trying to be like, all right, we're going to take a look at like the liner notes of stuff. And it's kind of transformed itself into something maybe a little bit different than what it is or what we planned it as. And, you know, it's been such a cool experience to get to, and you know, the feeling that you get listening to these things like in a different way. I get to listen to this shit in a different way every fucking week. Right. And it's really cool to have listened to this again in a different way, to get to talk to you and to get to have worked with you for the past, like, however many years. You know, this is really like a full circle situation.
Cool. Yeah. For
it's
me
awesome.
too, man.
It's fucking sick.
Super, super cool.
So
I was curious more too about if I could ask you guys some questions.
Sure.
You had a band?
I did, yeah.
Okay. Did you have a band?
Yeah, I mean, not good ones.
Okay.
The ones that when we went to drive through, they were like,
your bands are good.
No, they weren't good.
Oh yeah.
They were not good. They were like, but when we went to drive through, they were like, it was between us and something corporate.
Okay.
And
you like them?
They made the right decision.
They made the right
They
decision.
certainly didn't not. I don't know. We don't know. Never know the counterfactual here,
That's
but
true.
they made a pretty good decision.
They made a really good decision. That guy is fucking awesome. They made the absolute right decision. So, but no, yeah, I had a couple. And I was in like, you know, I was in hardcore bands. I was in like emo bands. I was in like, there were a bunch of fucking guys that came over from Bosnia that really liked San Diego, like indie, that like 3 Mile Pilot. No Knives.
Dude,
like,
I remember when you brought up
dude.
the Bosnians to Mark Trombino, and he's just like, "Huh, okay."
Well,
These were your bandmates?
No,
Is
I
that-
don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
How'd
they're-
you meet them?
They just came over from Bosnia, and then they were our friends.
Hereto known as the Bosnians.
They were just like, dude, I don't know. There's just for some reason all the Bosnians came to Tucson and then fucking like loved this type of music, and they were the ones that like showed me.
Dude, that was like how you opened the interview with Mark Trombino. You were like, "Yeah, there's Bosnians in Tucson that love your music," and he's like, "Okay."
This is gonna be a hard interview.
Yeah, that's probably not a good way to do that. Yeah, I guess out of context, it doesn't really make much sense. But no, they really
It's adding
showed,
flavor to the context for sure.
they really showed me a lot of stuff.
Okay,
like,
yeah.
and I don't know how the fuck they knew of all this shit.
Yeah. Dude, I love No Knife.
I love No Knife. I love No Knife.
I didn't touch too much, and they're not, I don't know, they sat in the sweet spot. I didn't touch any heavy music, really. But No Knife, for sure. At the drive-in, a bit. It's kind of where I draw the line.
I think that's really cool that you were like, I don't like that.
It's very easy to,
Yeah, I think that's awesome. To just be like, nah, I don't like that.
Always been that way.
I mean, I think it's, dude, one of the main things, like looking at the stuff that you don't like and then just like what you like I feel like everything that you did with this project was super organic and you were just like having fun with it. And looking back on it, you're like, it's very obvious to me and Morgan, like you were ahead of the curve on a lot of things.
Nice,
and
you.
obviously, I mean, do you ever look back and you're like, I was definitely ahead of it on that? And how do you deal with that?
I don't think about it as being ahead of the curve.
Okay.
All that's anything that I was at the forefront of. I feel like I tend to think this is the truth. Like the Beatles were there at the time and the place when someone like the Beatles was about to come along, and they happened to be the people that became that.
Right time, right place.
Right time, right place. Like it's all in the air. Somebody was gonna do it.
Yeah, that's how we feel about emo night.
Yeah. With like home recording and like bedroom pop, like that was happening. If that's what you mean by at the forefront, like, that was just, hey, I got the program that everyone got. And so it was all coming down the line and I was lucky to be there at that time. That's how I look at it.
I think, again, like bringing it back to like just this whole thing in general, I think after talking to so many of these artists, they were all, I think this scene was just very ahead in a way that they were so unaware of and might still not be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a really strangely unassuming like alternative environment that we all grew up in.
For sure. And I didn't know what to make of it at the time at all. The fact that we're like still talking about it to this day.
It means something,
at all,
right?
It feels
like
totally
that,
crazy.
It feels really special. Like, and
this album did well commercially too.
Yeah.
Number 13 on Billboard 200 and certified, what is it? Certified platinum.
It's a platinum single and a gold
Platinum.
record.
Oh, platinum single, gold record. All right, dude.
Got the plaques in storage.
That's awesome. I mean, for somebody who was just making beats and making bedroom pop in their bedroom and then uploading it to MySpace to going on and making this full length album with Drive Thru and then having it chart on Billboard and then you're on like MTV with Real World and
Cool J.
You're getting like these syncs where you're actually like the theme song of these different shows. Was there ever a moment where you're like, okay, this is a thing now?
Definitely a moment when I was like, okay, this is a thing now. And I guess it was like MTV, like Do Circuit Breakout was kind of a moment, or the Real World thing at South by Southwest. Those were both two big things where I was like, oh, this is like on TV. And like my parents were like, wow, I guess you did something with your life.
Did want to ask about your parents because you're so young. Like, were they like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they were like, what the fuck?
Did they want you to do something else?
Yeah, they wanted me to go to school. And their deal was go to school or get the fuck out. And I was like, I'm going to get the fuck out. All right. And that's when I moved out of the house and I moved into one of those like monthly industrial office space rehearsal spaces. No shower, just a bathroom down the hall. And I lived there for a year. And that's when I was, I'd already written a lot of these songs, but that one when I was kind of like writing more of this stuff, kind of focusing on the band. But it wasn't even like I had this mindset of like, I'm going to make it in music. I was just like, I'm not going to school.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Kind of how I feel.
I want to do this and I'm going to stay up late doing this. And it's just because it's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I feel really fortunate that like, for example, a song like Here in Your Arms, that it had commercial success the way it did because I wrote it from such a pure place of just like, I'm just doing this for fun and this is what I want to hear. And so if I had, I don't know, worked with a co-writer or a producer or been like more third person-y in my perspective trying to write this song that was going to do X, Y, Z, I think it might have poisoned me for the rest of my life, And if it had worked, I'd be like, well, shit, that's how I got to do it every time, I guess. And if it hadn't worked, I would just be bitter and probably upset. But so to do something that is just pure and just for me and just for fun and then have it work, I'm like, I guess hopefully that can just continue working. And that's definitely been my motto my whole life is just, well, just follow whatever it is that you want to do, and people will get it or not. And it's just, I don't worry about the outcome too much.
100%. That's exactly how I feel.
Were you, after you saw a little bit, how did you make a bunch of money when you were like a little kid?
From that music?
Yeah.
I mean, I was 22 or 23 when some money came in.
Yeah, you're like, what do I do with this?
I bought a house.
Yeah, okay. That's nice.
And I do remember looking around at some of the other bands on the label, and they bought cars, they bought BMWs, and I was like, fucking idiot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
buying a house. It wasn't actually that great of a decision because I bought it in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
The housing crisis, like right on the cliff.
Terrible,
Smart.
actually. Could have bought a car.
That's funny. When we talked to the Under Oath guys too, they were in the same boat. They're like, we lost a ton of money on our houses that we bought in 2008.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tough to be a successful scene member.
Yeah,
when the scene was popping off in 2006, 2007, and finally see success, and then rough timing in a way.
Yeah,
that was truly though that moment when I bought a house. It honestly wasn't until that my parents were like,
you did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess we don't have to worry about him anymore.
It's a really it's so strange to think back. I think a little bit ago, my parents were like, "Oh, what they're doing is actually like,
got some legs."
Yeah. I think a lot of the generation that the boomer generation, like, I don't mean to say it's like boomers. I'm just thinking it's just the way that they are.
I've seen polling on this. It is the way they are.
But I mean, like they're just like, I don't view this thing as real unless it is a thing, no matter what amount of success it gets. They're like, well, you didn't get a college degree, so you're not successful, but you have like 7 houses. It's like a very strange thing about how they look at like what success
like they
is.
wouldn't even they weren't impressed by the financial rewards and buying a house or XYZ. It was college degree that they wanted.
I mean, I think that's like where a lot of the parents were at the time. Even if they saw all of the stuff, they would be like, well, when are you going to go back to school?
Yeah.
Right.
Neither of my parents went to college, so they didn't quite have that perspective. I think at that time it was common knowledge, like, look, if you don't go to college, you are screwed. But I think both my parents were like, well, we didn't, and we made it, so there might be another way. So they didn't put that pressure on me too much, but it was just like, make money.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, looking back at this I was looking at some of the tours and went out with Reggie, which is like, so I was like, that is a cool fucking tour.
That was a cool moment for me. I was a huge fan, hugely inspired by, It's Almost Obvious, right?
I mean, I'm a huge Reggie fan. I've always been a huge Reggie fan, and like I wanted to know. I was like, what was touring with Reggie? I hate questions like, how was it? What was the cool? But like, were there cool moments and like really things that were like very distinct about like touring with Reggie?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, his show was psychotic in the best way, and I was so happy to like be on tour with that, loving all those songs as well. He himself. I guess I don't really know too much, but there's been some drama about him lately, but he was the nicest guy, fucking funny and friendly and just sweet and wonderful. And, kind of like a strange and just exactly the way you would hope. Where we like played the Norva. They've got like a jacuzzi in the backstage, and no one wanted to go in it because it looked cloudy, and you just figured, how awful it probably was. And he was like, I'm going in. And he's just in there just all wet, like having a good time.
That's awesome.
All of his band ruled. They were super sweet. Number 9, Paul from Slipknot was playing bass for him at the time. So that was a trip.
Whoa.
Rest in peace.
Like at the time he was in Slipknot?
On that tour. And at the time he was both in Slipknot and he was playing for Reggie on this tour.
Cool.
And that was a trip. He also was a very sweet, lovely guy. It was a bit funny because he obviously was crazy wealthy. And they were like opening this tour, and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to play bass because I like, James DeWeese and they're friends. And I think they're both from wherever it is in Kansas, but he would like rent a Hummer and then drive up to the show on his own. And he would fly from show to show when the rest of the band would just be driving. He'd be like, well, I'm going to get a ticket and just fly. But he also, at the time, couldn't really, I guess, be trusted to catch the flight. So he would be like, who's going to fly with me? I'll buy your ticket. I need a babysitter.
Nice.
And so every day somebody else would be like, I'm flying with him. I'm taking him to the next
Damn,
city.
that's the dream, to just be a drunk rich guy.
And
To have a babysitter. That's like, honestly, that is the dream.
Yeah.
To just be so drunk that you just need a handler.
Here, come hang with me. I'll buy you a ticket.
That really is just awesome. That's so fucking cool. What's it like that, touring with, is that when you were like starstruck a little bit? Cause you're like touring with these artists that
With
you're
Reggie?
like
Yeah.
pretty heavily influenced by. Was it like a difficult situation, or were you like nervous about doing it? Or is he like,
With Reggie, I was geeked out.
Yeah.
Super fan. Definitely starstruck. But he's the kind of personality type that he'd put you very much at ease.
Like disarms
that
you
was
real
short-lived.
quick?
Disarmed me
Yeah.
very quick. It was just obviously like, he was a sweet, friendly, silly guy.
I've heard nothing but great things.
Yeah.
Like I've heard nothing but great things
I've got
about
nothing
him.
but great things to say.
There were a bunch of fucking members in that band. Weren't there like members from like Coalesce? and
Coalesce,
Get Up?
yeah.
Were there Get Up Kid guys in there? There's like
They
members
played,
from
and
like,
James is the reason for the synths in Get Up Kids. He played in the Get Up Kids.
yeah, I was just like, I've never
that's
quite.
That's actually another good story. When I was in Lawrence, Kansas last weekend with Emo Night with y'all. Across the street was a Granada where we played on that tour
Yeah.
with Reggie, and Matt Pryor came out to the show, and we were all. It was another, nervous butterflies starstruck moment, knowing he was out there watching the show, and then James is like, "We're like, hey, we know how to play action in action. Do you think like we could do a cover?" And like maybe Matt would want to sing like in the encore. And he was like, yeah, dude, he'll totally do it. He'll do it. I'll call him right now. And we're like, oh my God, okay. And then we're like, hey, did you talk to Matt? Like, is it all good? He's like, yeah, dude, it's gonna be so sick. All right, we're gonna do this. He'll come out in the encore, and he comes out and he's like, we're like, hey, so we have a special guest for this one. I guess there's somebody in the audience, Matt Pryor, we're gonna do a Get Up Kids song. And he goes, and we're like, oh no. And then James is just giving him the hard sell, like, come on, get up here. And we're like, dude, he doesn't want to do it. And it's getting really, really awkward. And so he comes up begrudgingly. And we're like, oh no, he hates this. And he did hate it. I talked to him about it afterward. I was like, I'm sorry about that. And he's like, I talked to him like at Slam Dunk like 2 years ago. So like 10 years after the fact. And he's like, oh yeah, I hated that.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. James said it was all good. And he's like, yeah, he would.
Matt Pryor seems like a scary guy.
Then I was scared because he
Yeah.
was not having a good
Right.
time.
Yeah.
But at Slam Dunk 2 years ago, he was so nice.
Chilling
and
now.
so chilling. Yeah, so friendly.
Yeah,
But
he's
so-
fucking. I
I
forgot.
remember when we saw him at the observatory, Morgan was like, Matt Pryor was just staring at me the whole time.
Well,
He's got a
He
big
was mad.
beard.
It
and
seemed
yeah.
like if you weren't like fully engaged, you'd fucking, and then you'd be like, "I'm at attention, sir."
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
and
I lost
yes, I know this. And so I was just like, it was almost like it was like at work.
Uh-huh.
Like I was getting watched by a boss watching the Get Up Kids, which I mean, and they are one of my all-time favorites. Like I fucking love the Get Up Kids, but I was like, am I in trouble?
Yeah, am I
Like,
watching
was
them
like,
wrong?
I was like, did I do something? And this was before Emo Night, I think. I don't know.
We had
Probably
just
like,
started it.
yeah, he
Okay.
probably like didn't even know what it
Yeah.
was. So he probably, who knows if the artists are like mad at it,
Yeah.
And so, but I was like, is he mad at me? Is he mad at me?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I think he looks like that until until you talk to him. But so he came up begrudgingly, and he steps to the mic, and I guess we're doing it, and we do the da 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 da, and then we hit the verse, and he just rips into it just so perfect. We're like, oh, he's on, baby. Why wasn't he wanting to do this? And he fucking killed it.
Flip the switch on.
Flip the switch on. And you're like,
And-
oh, don't make me do it. Okay.
Dude, what an that's fucking uncomfortable to be like, do it, dude.
It
in
was
front
so
of, like, everybody. That's so
uncomfortable,
fucking
dude.
uncomfortable.
But I treasure that memory at
Yeah.
the same time.
Forrest, when you were we were texting a little bit, I asked you to come on the pod, and you're like, "What should we talk about? What's it like?" And I was like, "Well, we kind of do like deep dives, but we also just really want to get into the stuff that you can't really look up. Like,
Yeah.
what was it like, recording this album when you were in the studio? We touched on that a little bit, but is there anything about this album that isn't out there that you would like to be out there?"
What is and isn't out there? One interesting way of looking at this record, because some of the songs are older from like high school, and some of them are a little closer to the record release. I think "All of Your Love" and "Here in Your Arms" are probably the two like newest on the record, written closest to the release. It's kind of split up into songs that are about my current wife, Chelsea. Just my current wife. My forever wife, Chelsea.
That is very
First
funny.
and only.
And songs that were about like crushes in high school, you know? So there's about half that aren't about Chelsea. You got like 2 Weeks in Hawaii, Touchdown Turnaround, Side on Your Keyboard, Figures A and B, Home Wrecker. That would never be her. That might be it. Oh, All Time Lows. Those are all, and you're welcome, All Time Low for the band name.
For real.
Those are all not about Chelsea. And then you got Oda's Love, Baby It's Fact, All of Your Love, Here in Your Arms.
All the good ones.
This is the way I looked at it for a long time. I was like, it's interesting. All the good ones are about Chelsea.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
My muse.
Yeah, cute. That's awesome.
There's a couple songs on there that sound like The Dare. Like
Yeah.
I was like
Hey.
I was like, dude, it's fucking wild.
Forrest, once again, ahead of the game.
Really wild. Like really, I was like, fuck, dude, it's that's why I do love doing this. You're looking at it with a different lens and a new pair of glasses.
Sure.
And so I was like, fuck, this sounds like if you were to give this to that guy, this would work.
I was always just trying to do mostly just one thing with each tune. Like Here in Your Arms, I was just trying to do Digital Love by Daft Punk. I was just like, I love that song. I want something like that. I could not have written that song if not for Digital Love by Daft Punk. All of Your Love, I was just trying to do that frou-frou thing with all the vocoders. I was like, I got to do that. I don't know.
This is perfect because this is actually how we end the show always. It's like, if you like this, you might like that.
Yeah.
So naming
Okay.
some of your influences like this.
There you
is
go.
great.
Touch and Turnaround, just trying to be the Venga Boys.
Yep.
And 2 Weeks in Hawaii, a little Weezer, but I don't know if you know of a band from Pasadena called Ozma.
I don't
Well, it's
know.
nice. If you like Weezer, when Weezer started to, in my opinion, get less good, Ozma came in.
Green Album?
In my opinion,
Like-
sure, yeah.
Kind of like Coldplay to Radiohead. No.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
don't
we'll
know.
take over.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
At least like pop.
Was
Like,
that
Radiohead still.
was that the album where you're like, because that's where it lost me a little bit.
Definitely. That's when it lost me a little bit, yeah.
All right. Because I know, dude, you look back now and people are like, I fucking love the Green Album.
And there's some good things to say about
Yeah.
it. But that is when I was like, well, I don't know. I'll catch you guys. I don't know. We'll see about the next one.
Yeah.
The next one I was
It's-
like, oh, I'll see you on the next one. The next one I was like, I don't know if I'm even going to check out the next one.
It's super interesting to like see people's takes on it because they talk about the Green Album like the Blue Album, and I was just like, these are two
No,
different things.
Those are two different things.
Those are two different things, and like
Like I saw a tweet that hit pretty hard. That's like, I guess we'll never know what would happen if Weezer made more than just those two albums, Blue Album and Pinkerton. It's a shame. We'll never know.
Yeah.
it's damn, dude.
If only that was our timeline.
like really
actually.
hurt.
So funny.
It really hurts. It hurts to hear out loud. Honestly,
You know, but it's
like,
kind of true.
Speaking of Matt Pryor, we really like look at what we're gonna be doing coming up,
Mhm.
and we're like, what albums do we do? And I was like, I want to do one I really like, and I want to do the Get Up Kids, and I do not think he would do this.
You never know, Morgan.
I think he might. Again, man, if he ever had a, uptight, tough guy, he's been so nice the last couple times I've ever seen him. I think he would be down.
Yeah,
I
you can
mean-
ask him if he was mad at you at the observatory.
It would
Yeah,
be it would be nice to
And he'll
get.
be like, I remember that.
Yeah.
Dude, it would be
Yeah,
nice to
kinda.
get if he was like, yeah, I was. I would be like, cool, I can sleep at night now. Like I just
Right,
want
at
an
least it makes
answer.
sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah, that's like Forrest at Slam Dunk a couple of years
It
ago.
doesn't matter if
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the answer is
But
yes.
he's like, well, yeah, it's fine.
Like,
Like,
I
I'd be
would-
like, yeah, I was mad at you, but it's fine.
I think it's all. We've yet to have an artist come on here and be like, I hate you guys, and like I want.
Oh, I left some voicemails.
Oh, yeah, that's who it was.
That was you.
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like I was like, fuck, that's really funny. that you did that. That's
I wish,
awesome.
I wish.
I think that's so funny.
Well, they are anonymous. So.
I really do think that it's funny when people fucking do that.
All right. Well,
no,
Forrest, I think we
wait.
got to wrap it.
Sure.
I have a if you like this, you might like this.
Okay. What is it?
Have you listened to the new Porter Robinson album?
No, yeah, no.
Oh, I think you would love it.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
is it's my favorite album of 24, if not.
I bet
maybe-
you-
And what's the if you like this?
If you like
That
Hello
precedes
Goodbye,
that.
you'll
Oh,
like
yeah? Okay.
Porter Robinson.
All
I
right.
think also Porter Robinson, if you probably slid into his DMs, he'd be like fangirling out.
You know, I think unless I'm getting it twisted, I saw a bunch of tweets at some point, maybe about 6 months or a year ago, where Porter Robinson dropped "Here in Your Arms" at one of his sets, and some
Really?
like Brooklyn thing, and everyone was tagging me. I was like, oh, cool.
Hell yeah.
It's just truly like 10 out of 10.
Okay.
Like everything about it, I'm like, this is how music should sound.
Yeah, he's throwing it back.
Dope. When did it come out?
Last spring,
maybe like
last summer.
Okay.
Really like way different, because I wasn't a big Porter Robinson fan before. I just didn't. I thought, again, like we just started working in electronic music, and I kind of lumped it all together, and now I'm like so into it, and this is not that.
Okay.
This is not anything that I went back and like listened to. This is not that. If you listen to it on the way home, you will be like, this is the coolest thing. Please will you? And tell
I'll
me?
do that for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm in like 3 hours of traffic.
Yeah. Oh my God.
You're going to be blown. You're really, I'm blown away by it.
Yeah.
It's rare. I like a lot of music, but I can tell when there's music like this and then there's music like this.
Sure.
So, but yes, if you guys haven't, anybody's listening, that album.
If you like Hellogoodbye, please check out Porter Robinson. He needs some support. I'm gonna give him the Hellogoodbye bump right now.
Yeah. Joni wrote this album is so ahead. Joni's our intern who does a lot of.
She's not our intern.
Oh, she doesn't. She's not our intern anymore. We hired her.
There you go. See, there is a pipeline for that.
Yeah. She wrote, this album is so ahead of its time. If it came out in 2010 under RCA or Universal, Forrest would have definitely been on an episode of iCarly. So there's our Gen Z correspondent.
Hold on. I didn't.
That doesn't even make any sense to me.
Do you guys realize I didn't even look at my computer this entire time? I didn't have any of my questions. Hold on.
All right.
On my notes. Hold on, dude.
You're done.
Thank you
for being on the pod.
Thank you for sure. Thank you for having me. Mwah.
I literally didn't ask anything. We got to do another one.
We'll do another one.